And he kind of asked me like, so what are you gonna do with your life? And I said, I wanna open a yoga studio. And he's like, okay, let's open the best yoga studio in Miami.
Or, oh my God, this hurts, or oh my God, when is this gonna be over? That is really how you deal with your life and how you deal with issues.
You're surrendering, and then that is when the mind is clear, after you've exhausted the body, you've exhausted the mind, that's where you get a lot of clarity.
I want to know what your message is to people that might say, oh, I've done yoga before, it's boring, or I just didn't vibe with it, it's too slow.
Welcome to the Integrated Mind Podcast, where we help you connect your mind, your body, and your soul. I'm your host, Bel Valladares Gottlieb, your integrative psychotherapist.
And I'm Nicole, your integrative nurse practitioner.
And today we have this amazing guest. Her name is Monica Del Valle, and she's a yoga instructor, but also the owner of Break Free Movement here in Coral Gables.
Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to have you.
I'm so happy to be here.
Good, me too. So, we have brought on in the past a lot of guests that are more of the emotional, more of the spiritual side, which is beautiful. But I think you would be, or you are, the perfect guest to really show the integration of the physical with also how you connect internally with yoga and your journey through it. So that's how what I want you to go in is, tell me how you got into being a yoga instructor and eventually being the owner of Break Free Movement.
Break Free. So I began to practice yoga over 20 years ago, and it was recommended by a therapist to kind of manage anxiety and to just have like this self-practice of something that was like discipline, to get a routine. And then I ended up falling in love with yoga. So I practiced a very different modality, which was very strict, but I was obsessed. I mean, I would just practice and practice. And the more I started to practice, then the more I would kind of branch out to the different modalities until I found like a power vinyasa, which was, I really loved it. There was music, it was very dynamic. And then I felt like, okay, this is my thing. And then I remember once I felt so moved by so many yoga instructors that I had, that I felt like they had such a positive impact on my life and the way that I was managing my day-to-day, that I said, you know, I would love to kind of step into this power and step into this space where I could kind of do the same, where I could be a person that could influence students and people to have this positive experience and to ultimately fall in love. And I think I was very open about yoga. Everyone knew I loved it so much. So I felt like, you know, I'm going to take this on. And I did it at a time where my girls were a little bit older, so they needed me a little less.
Yeah.
And I went through my teacher training. And after that life happened. And then I opened Break Free actually during my divorce. I had a very, very amicable divorce.
Okay.
So my ex-husband's very supportive, and he said, so
beautiful.
He's awesome. And we have a great, great relationship. And he kind of asked me like, so what are you gonna do with your life? And I said, I wanna open a yoga studio. And he's like, okay, let's open the best yoga studio in Miami. So
wow, I'm getting chills. That's such a beautiful story.
Yeah.
I hope people would take that and really copy and paste it to
so important.
Something potential, because there's two little kids.
There's two kids. We co-parent very well. They're our priority. And the relationship that we have, I think it's very obvious in the way that they have not been affected. I think it's due to the way that we've handled everything. So he's been, you know, because of his support, and he's so loving and wants to see me succeed. I've had his 100% support during the project.
That's so beautiful. I mean, just thinking of the timeline that you just talked about, it was divorce, and you learning how to manage everything. Wow.
I know. I think that also helped me through the divorce, to have this personal project, and to know that I was creating something beautiful, something I'm so passionate about. So I think that kind of helped me just go through the motions and understand, okay, something's dying, but something's also about to be born.
Being reborn. I love that. I love the analogy there. It's something that I'm very relatable to your story, which is how I became not how I became, but how I turned to yoga is for a very similar reason. It was a time in my life where I was just like, is this it? There has to be something more. And yoga for me was the catapult to how I practice now. So it's funny that we both used it for very similar reasons. And then you kind of continued in that path. And I continued in a different path, but still involving yoga into it and bringing in the richness of what it taught me into where I am today. So I say that because people think of yoga and people think, okay, it's only this part. But there's so much more to yoga. And I think that's where I want you to start talking a little bit more about, because it's not just a movement, right? There's so much more to it, and it can take you to so many different, paths of life.
Absolutely.
So I know you used it to kind of learn how to manage anxiety, and it was a referral, a recommendation, but what else did you get out of it?
Oh my gosh, so much. For me, it was mostly dedicating myself, or it was like the self-discipline at the time. I mean, this was over 20 years ago, so I was not going to say my age, but I was much younger.
Fabulous.
I was much younger. So at that time, it was kind of like, you're a little lost.
Mm-hmm.
You need kind of like something to kind of ground you. And I felt like that's really what yoga brought me. It was something where I got into a new routine, and I got into something that I ended up really falling in love with. And I definitely learned very early on that yoga is so much more, it's so much more than the pose, right? It's so much more than the pose you're holding, or the tricks that you're doing in class, or where you're evolving the pose. And I think that it goes so much more beyond that. What I was able to find was, when I would finish class, I was very emotional. And I was like, I would cry in Shavasana. You're laying there and you're just like hysterical, or you just leave and you feel this peace, or you feel, you have a different experience every day, because every day you deal with different things, right? So I think that for me, what I loved was just the fact that I was managing my stress better. My anxiety was kind of non-existent. I would handle issues and problems. Like I had more tools to handle these issues.
Would you say your mind was clear?
My mind was much more clear, much more clear. I think that I like to think of yoga as like a work in, and I think that you don't even realize that it's like a meditation and movement. Although I never encourage, because I don't personally meditate, because I prefer to connect with myself, with God. I think that it's a meditation and movement. When I'm teaching, a lot of the students, like their brains are kind of like on autopilot, right? Like they're going right hand, left hand, twisting, left elbow, right foot. There's so many different things happening that they don't have the time to think of those, these ruminating thoughts or anything else, that this stress that they may feel. Like it really causes you to be present. If you're not present in the moment during yoga, you're going to miss a step, you're going to miss the twist, you're going to miss the direction, because you're going to fall. You have to focus on your balance. You have to focus on the breath. I mean, I teach and I don't stop talking, because I'm cueing your body, where I want you to move on your mat, but I'm also reminding you to breathe. The beautiful thing about yoga is the breath is connected to the movement. So it's an inhale as the arms come up, and it's an exhale as you fold. So it's really intentional breath work without them knowing.
It's a synchronicity.
It's like a dance, but you're kind of forcing them to really calm their nervous system down by not thinking about their thoughts, because they have to be present in the moment, and they're breathing so much, they're
grounded. And then the breath again. And I've said this, I think, before. When a person is either depressed or anxious, their breath is not as it should.
Your breath.
We hold our breath a lot, or we breathe really quickly, which obviously is going to stimulate your sympathetic nervous system. And what I love, and you said it beautifully, you're so concentrated on the movement and the breath that it's kind of a synchronicity in a dance, that it's not allowing your breath to either go really, really fast or hold it, because if you hold it while you move, because that's happened to me. I mean, when I first started, you're doing something very difficult, and the one thing you do is you hold your breath because you're so focused. But what happens is that you get exhausted if you hold your breath. So, I mean, look at it in a scientific way, it's exactly that. It's grounding you making your thoughts, or getting away from your thoughts and being in the present moment. And then your breath is not going fast or holding. So it's doing two things simultaneously while you're also enjoying that flow and that movement.
In the stretch.
Oh, you know what I say? I always say when I go to yoga, I always say, your psychological issues are in your tissues.
There are issues in your tissues. Absolutely.
Yeah, so when you're stressed out, you tight.
The shoulders, the hunching of the back. A lot of it manifests in like the belly, belly aches and low back pain.
Yes. So if you're not moving and you're not stretching, you're just going to be stiff.
Stagnant.
Yes. And you're not going to flow with life. Oh, I can go into that I can go on rambling about that. That's more of a spiritual side.
So, Monica, I want to know what your message is to people that might say, oh, I've done yoga before, it's boring, or I just didn't vibe with it, it's too slow. I know there's many different styles of yoga. I've gone through several myself, and I have ones that I gravitate to, ones that I, maybe won't book classes for that. So I just want to hear what your thoughts on it, because I know you've had so many different guests.
Yes. So I myself have gone through the same yoga journey where I've tried the different modalities, and then I found, and maybe it was what I needed at the time, right? Maybe that was like I needed that kind of yoga for that moment in my life, and maybe I kind of evolved out of it because I wanted something else for myself at the present moment. But I would tell people to kind of find your not to give up on yoga, to find your yoga. Ask a friend that you have maybe a similar vibe as far as like your exercise style, or the kind of like your energy levels, or you can kind of like, you can relate to and say, hey, if you do yoga, or I know you do yoga, what kind of yoga do you do? What do you recommend? Where should I go? Because I think that even if the place is right, it could also be the instructor. So it could be the tone of the voice. It could be the way that they teach, the way that they're cueing the movement. So I understand people get very discouraged. Through the years, people would look at me and they would say, are you sure all you do is yoga? And there was a time I wasn't really working out, doing weights. And, now I do a little bit of everything. But they would say, how do you look like that with yoga? And I'm like, it's just, I practice daily. I really enjoy it. So for me, I had a physical benefit, but I was doing it more so for the mental benefit, for the spiritual benefit. And I would just tell people, find your yoga. Don't give up. Find someone that has a similar interest as you, so that you can kind of get on the same vibe and figure out what works for you.
I totally agree, because there might be like some Sundays that I want to do a slow heated yin, and there might be some days where I want like a yoga sculpt, and there might be other days where I don't want any heat. So I think people really need to explore and not just go maybe with the first yoga class that they've ever done, because I don't think we could really judge yoga on the first class that we've ever done, because it's hard, it's slow, it's nothing like we've never like done the slow breaths, the breathing with the movement, the synchronicity of everything. And I think that when you can find peace on your mat and just something that makes you feel comfortable, that might not even be a studio, it might be on your mat at home. For people to explore, and not all yoga is the same. And I think that that's beautiful about what you do at your studio, that you offer different classes. You've created a style that you think works for the people that come to your studio.
For the demographic.
Yeah.
So Yoga Sculpt, which I just started to offer certifications to allow teachers, because yoga is getting also a little bit more commercialized. Yes, and I think especially in Miami, a lot of clients want to have the benefits of yoga while also saying, okay, well, I also got my workout in. And it's something that I personally enjoy, because it's Yoga Sculpt is dynamic, there's strength training, and you're still getting all the benefits of yoga. So there's loud music, it's a vibe, it's dark. And I think that Yoga Sculpt may be for someone who's intimidated. I think you feel a little less intimidated, because I don't include the challenging balancing poses. I keep the lights really low. the music is really loud. I'm your cheerleader in
You can
there.
be in your zone.
You can be in your zone. I'm a little bit mean, like I push you. So it's like almost like you have not a personal trainer, but I'm there pushing you to your limit. But then, I'm playful and I'm fun in the class. So I think that it's a good place to start if you're just starting out, because I know people think, are they worried? What about, am I flexible enough? Can't even touch my toes.
They're all in their heads.
They're in their heads. So they're very...
And
they feel
comparing
themselves. And so I try not to offer the poses that would allow the student, especially somebody that's a first-time student, to feel intimidated, while we hold a headstand or forearm stand for 5 breaths, and everyone's just kind of looking around waiting for the 1 or 2 students in class that are actually doing it.
Right.
So I love to take classes like that myself personally, but what I offer and what I teach is something that I think is accessible for everyone.
Yeah, because that's the first thing that I get. Like, I've gotten a lot of my friends or acquaintances, they're like, oh my God, I want to try yoga class. I've never done it, but it's so scary. I don't even know the moves. I don't even know where to begin. And people are going to think that I suck, or people are going to be looking at me. I don't know where I'm going. But I mean, from what you're experiencing and what you see in your studio, do you see even I would say, people worried about that?
No one is looking around.
Thank you.
I have mirrors in my studio, which I like, because since we do have the element of either we have other sculpt classes or yoga sculpt, it's important to kind of look at your form in the mirror and to kind of see yourself. I personally like to practice with a mirror, but I think that kind of helps. You already feel better because, you know that the student is probably going to be looking at themselves. They're going to be looking at me. Or I feel like people think there's no one's looking at you. They're just trying to make it through the class alive. I think, if you're balancing, you can't look around and see your neighbor. If you're in the moment and I'm telling you, put your right hand down and you sweep the right leg back, whatever it may be, you need to be there and it's on your mat. People don't realize it's so much more of a self-practice than it is a group exercise. Although we're in it together and there's a sense of community, it really is it's work on your mat with yourself.
Absolutely. It's kind of what I say. It's like you're so focused on you and what you need to do and your breath. There's so many things that you need to focus on that nobody's looking at you.
No, I'm coming at you with so much in a class, breathe, move, sweep, tighten. There's so much that I talk to that there should be no intimidation with anyone in the class.
And you touched on something that I want to bring up, and it's something difficult, and it could be a little bit, I would say, a little bit controversial, but not really. I'm sure maybe you've gone through this, and I'm just going to ask you directly. So yoga can be thought of as a religion, right? It's something that could be religious, but from my point of view, and I wanted to ask you, I see it more as a way that I connect with myself and my higher power.
Right.
And I think the intention behind it is what gives it the definition. But I wanted to know, from your perspective, how do you see that, and how do you?
So that's a good one. Mm-hmm. For me, my personal practice, I'll take it as a moment when there's rest, or while we're setting the intention. My intention will be to either focus on gratitude in the beginning, to ground down and to kind of give myself setting an intention for the day, the week, to give thanks, to just remind myself how grateful we are, how blessed we are. And then in Shavasana, for me personally, it's my time to maybe give a little thanks to God, but while I'm teaching, this isn't something that I'll necessarily offer to students, and since there's different religions and there's different
faiths,
different faiths. So I never encourage a student to disconnect. So I always encourage them to connect with themselves. And I think that through that connection is where and through the gratitude and through just the whole experience of yoga, there is an element of connecting to spirituality. When you're grateful, you're showing gratitude to God, the universe, to your higher power. And that is just something that immediately changes your mood. It changes the expectation of the day. It kind of allows you to not focus on the other noise in your head and in your mind, and that it allows you to release things that that you know are not serving you, your past and your future, which is not where the present moment is taking place, which is where I encourage people to be. Tap in, be here now. This is where life is happening.
Yeah, I see it just like how you said, it's more of a tool, is how I see it. A tool to release emotions through the body, exhaust the body and the mind in order for your mind to be clearer, to then make that connection. And that connection to whatever is the choice of the person. Right. But again, you can have the intention to do whatever you want to it. But I get that question a lot. You know, obviously we live in Miami. It's a very more of a Christian-based society or community, which is great. I have nothing about that. I would consider myself a Christian myself. So it's not that I'm evoking another God. It's not anything like that. It's actually the opposite. It's giving me the modality and the tool to calm my nervous system, to ground my mind, and really make that connection even stronger.
Yes, you clear the thoughts to kind of connect. And there's a surrender, you know, in a yoga class at the end, you're surrendering. And then that is when the mind is clear, after you've exhausted the body, you've exhausted the mind, that's where you get a lot of clarity. But I definitely do want to say that what many people think there's different opinions that yoga poses are invoking a god, a spirit. I mean, I've chosen to really stick to a yoga style that is very Americanized. And it is very just like, it's more about holding the pose, challenging the body, challenging the mind, and then finding that release at the end of class. So I definitely don't practice or don't encourage and don't have that intention of any pose or any invoking a god, spirit, or anything similar to that nature.
You know what I would, and this is what I try to do when I suggest poses or I suggest routines or sequences, better said, to my clients, is think about when you're holding that pose, what is going on in your head? Because what you're saying to yourself when you're holding that pose, whether it's, oh my God, I suck, or oh my God, this hurts, or oh my God, when is this going to be over? That is really how you deal with your life and how you deal with issues. Is
totally.
How do you talk to yourself when your body and your mind is in a situation where it's strenuous, stressful, and not pleasant? Because it's difficult.
It is
especially
difficult
when you're starting out. So I think that part of yoga can be very insightful to what is the relationship that you have with yourself.
And how you talk to yourself, the words you use.
Mm-hmm. Because people don't understand, and how you talk to yourself and the relationship that you have with yourself is how you're going to feel. Again, going back to the purpose of this podcast and the purpose of bringing you in and all of our different guests in is integrating. The purpose is integrating your mind, your body, and your soul, or your spirit, or authentic self. And you do that by understanding what happens, what your thoughts are, what's going on that is making you feel separated, making you feel alone, making you feel sad. So I consider like holding the poses. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I don't evoke a spirit or anything like that. Mm-hmm. I use that to really understand, okay, how am I handling life now? What is it that I'm thinking or treating myself now?
How am I talking to myself?
Yes, because that's so important. And we tend to just jump on the negative, right? Instead of
you, right? And this, okay.
You're smiling, so.
No, it's good because I want to know. Hypnosis, right?
Okay.
Yoga concentration. Has that caused you guys like any relationships in the past, family members or friendships to be broken for, you know?
For yoga, you mean?
Or
or for
the things that you guys really believe in, right? Like, you know what
I'm
I'm saying?
trying to think. I would say more of lifestyle.
Or I guess you like kind of treading lightly with your very religious friends.
Yeah,
and,
I mean,
you know, like either come and experience it,
come and
or
see.
maybe it's not for you.
Yeah. I think that the more yoga I used to practice, and early on when I was really using it to help me manage my stress, I still use it to manage my stress. But I think at the end, when you gain a lot of clarity, a lot of things come up. So while I'm putting towels on the students' faces, or as they're laying in shavasana and they have 3 to 5 minutes to kind of just rest, catch their breath, and just know that the class is ending, a lot of people are crying. I myself would cry all the time. And then after I would leave, because sometimes the work doesn't happen, or the emotions don't come up at the moment, they come up after. So there's times that students I can see that they're like sobbing, and I'm kind of mean, and I kind of will play a song that's kind of a little bit charging, like a little.
But that's good.
I want them to feel that. Like I want them to feel, and I love to create the experience, like from the beginning to the end. I'm taking them through a story. I'm taking them through an experience. So at the end, I play something emotionally charging, and it's amazing how students will write to me and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm going through a divorce," or "Oh my gosh, I want to change my job. I hate my boss," or "I'm not happy in my relationship." And I think a lot of things come up after you have that clarity, after you have the thoughts are gone, or the thoughts are more clear. And I think that it definitely helps them to make a lot of life changes, or to kind of, they have the tools to handle the obstacles that they're facing in life, because we're all facing obstacles in life on a daily basis. So it's a lot of, I do think that the students get a lot of clarity. And I think that that's why they keep coming back.
Yeah, and I would say probably that moment where they're actually connecting with themselves, they probably don't get it.
It happens later.
Outside of the class or in your studio, because they don't connect with themselves. Because it's hard to have clarity in the society that we live in. It's a lot of stimulation. It's a very sympathetic lifestyle that we live. So when you remove yourself and put yourself really trying to connect with yourself, and then you have all these emotions coming up.
And all the thoughts that you keep suppressing because your lifestyle is so busy that you don't have time to even address it.
That's another thing, is we sometimes some of us, I'm not generalizing here, we make ourselves busy on purpose.
On purpose, to avoid being alone with our thoughts.
Because it's scary. It's the crying, right? Which I love that you do that. I love that you kind of like add the music to this. Yeah, that you poke and you really like emphasize them to actually experience that, because our society has a mentality that if we're crying or we feel sad or bad, that's a bad thing. Yeah. And it's necessary for us to process it emotionally, psychologically, and physically, as long as it's not lasting for a certain amount of time. But we're human, and we need to experience that. So I love the fact that you're not trying to put a happier song to switch that. You kind of really like, okay, no,
let's embrace
dig
it.
into it. Embrace it.
And then let it go, right? Like that's, everyone comes in with limited beliefs. They come in with negative self-talk. They come in with just a lot of heavy emotions. And I feel that when they're done, my goal and what I hope and wish that all my students feel is that they had the experience, they let go, they broke free, and they're able to kind of go on with their day without all of that kind of weighing them down. And I think that's my wish, my goal, my hope for all the students who experience yoga in my studio, or at least in my class.
You have a very intentional studio, from what I'm getting.
At least my studio is everything that I wanted it to be, it was very intentional.
I love that.
Definitely.
And I think that's probably why you're doing so well.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I found my purpose. So I feel like when you finally find your purpose, and you do it from a place of authenticity and without attachment, I think that it just becomes, I feel so fulfilled. I feel so lucky. I get to wake up every day and do what I love. I get to wake up every day and connect with students, or know that I'm positively and powerfully impacting their lives. And I take it so seriously. Like I'm intentional with the music that I play. I'm intentional with the workout, or the sequence that I organize. I'm intentional from every way that you can possibly think. The smell, the sound, the light, just because I want them to have that experience.
No, you can, everything that you're talking to me about, and how even just when you said I kind of push them with the music, that shows me that you're really present in your classes, that you're really connected with the vibe, what's going on, and you're not like letting your foot off the gas there.
No,
You're
all gas, no brakes.
I like that. I like that.
You know, we are female entrepreneurs. You're a female entrepreneur. What, maybe you can talk about the struggles, the successes, like motivating our audience on pursuing your dreams and just going for it. And, you know, just talking a little bit about the journey of like starting your own business.
Yeah, so for me, I was very, I consider myself to have had a very fortunate life, a very generous ex-husband, where I had the option to not work and be a housewife and not have to worry about getting up and having that responsibility. But then I understood that that wasn't what I wanted. And I understood that I wanted to either work as a yoga instructor. I never would have imagined that I would have owned a studio. I look at myself now and I'm like, pinch me, I can't believe this is happening. But I think that for me, becoming an entrepreneur, it's still surreal to me because I'm truly doing what I love. And I just think that when you do it from a place you're not coming from fear, and you're kind of just like doing it authentically because it's something that you connect with and you feel like it's your purpose. I feel like you don't even worry about, at least me personally, I'm like the money or it's just like it comes, it flows, it attracts. It's just like it happens. At least in my experience, I just took such a leap of faith, and I believed in myself so much, and I believed in what I was doing so much that I think that just everyone else could feel it. The students, the instructors that believed in me and drive so far to work at my studio because they believe in what I believe in and they understand my purpose. So I think that as an entrepreneur, it can be very scary, but I think you have to take the leap of faith and do something that is just aligned with what you really want to do and with the purpose that you feel you deeply have. And to surround yourself with supportive, loving people who are going to support you in every way. I am more creative, and I'm very into kind of like like what I'm going to create in the studio and the experience I'm going to create for the students. But if you talk to me about like our software or our app, or you talk to me about the scheduling system, I'm just going to break down. Like I'm not break down literally. I'm going to have like a mental breakdown. I'm just going to be like that block. I'm going to have the walls come up and I'm going to have a mental block. And I'm like, I don't do that.
So you delegate to things that that's not really in your realm.
I know my limitations, and then I know the things that don't allow me or that get in the way of me being authentic to what I do, because I feel like if you want me to start to do all of the managerial things, it's just going to make me a little irritated, and I'm going to be maybe spread too thin between being a mom and, you know, having all the other things that I experience on a daily basis. It's very important to delegate, and I found a great support system. I have a studio manager who loves my studio. It's like as if it's hers. I've put it in her hands as if it's hers. And I think it's we have a great dynamic, and that's been really, I think that's the secret to my success is my studio manager. She knows my purpose. We're aligned in where we see the studio going, opening multiple locations. Like we both feel very passionately about the same thing. And then that kind of just, it gets, that energy is kind of felt by even the instructors. Like they just feel like very motivated to teach there.
It's infectious.
It's infectious.
Yeah.
It's definitely infectious.
So how did you come up with a name?
So break free, I was getting a divorce. I was breaking free.
Oh my God.
So, but not from anything bad, really. I was breaking free from an identity, kind of shedding my skin. And I felt like I was going through a moment in my life where I was being like cracked open. And I didn't feel like I was, like my ex-husband and I were aligned at the moment. And, you know, the things that he wanted to pursue in life weren't the same as me. So I knew that I was breaking free, not necessarily from something negative or bad. I was just breaking free from my old self and kind of emerging into this new Monica that has so much vision, so much purpose, so much certainty in what I wanted to do. So break free, and there was so much that I wanted to do with the name as far as like marketing and advertising, and I wanted it to, we never got the time to do it because it took off, and the community really embraced us. But I wanted to say, to tell students or to market, break free from your limited beliefs, break free from old patterns, break free from even addictions. You know, like there was so much that I wanted it to be, but ultimately break free is really breaking free from anything that's holding you back from stepping into your power, being your most authentic self. Anything you're holding on to, you know, whenever you're attached, you're not free. So it's like finding that, letting go of the attachment to whatever it is, a thought, a person, an idea, and becoming unattached and finding your peace and finding just like that, your value in yourself, the power within yourself. And that was kind of, that's still, thank you.
Very
Thank
beautiful.
you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I like that.
And the dandelion, it's a seed, that the logo, it's a dandelion seed. So a dandelion, as delicate as it may seem, and kind of like as, I don't want to say useless, but you just kind of see a dandelion and it's like, okay, it's just,
it's like,
it's
I know what you're-
whimsical. It isn't, it's neither here nor there. A strong wind comes, it takes it, but
flows.
it flows, and it's delicate, right? Like you blow and the seeds, they go. So what people don't know is like wherever the seed lands, it blooms. And what first starts to happen is that the leaves come out, which are they're called the lion's teeth. They come out first to protect it as it's like growing. So it kind of gets the strength. But I love the dandelion seed, because wherever it blooms, it plants, it sprouts, it grows. So there's always, it's kind of like that rebirth, but it's always just that ability to kind of break free or let go, land, go through the stuff, go through the junk, land and create a new version, create a new experience, create a new identity.
So this is kind of like mirroring your life.
Yeah,
It's basically your life.
I'm mirroring my life.
Yeah, but not necessarily in your physical form, but like your project.
Yeah.
You're putting yourself, your project is you
Yes,
in a business.
absolutely.
Wow, God bless you.
Thank you. Thank
That's so
you, Raymond.
amazing.
God bless you.
And if I'm thinking correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is around right before.
So I became an instructor before COVID, and then
Okay.
hit, and I was not able to start teaching as much as I wanted to. Then I became, a remote teacher at home with my girls, and we were just, I was unable to, and yoga is the first thing that suffered because the rooms are full. It's breath. You can't wear a mask. Believe it or not, I did practice yoga with a mask crazy times, but I wasn't able to really teach. So this was really 2021.
Okay.
When I started to get the idea. 2022 is when I started to plan, and then we opened in 2023.
Okay. But that's still like you went through a real adjustment.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you went from one extreme to the next. That's so
A big one.
amazing. I congratulate you.
Thank you. Thank
Because
you
that
so
takes
much.
a lot of faith, a lot of, faith in yourself, faith in whatever else you might have. I mean, you said it was God. And it's, again, we need that connection.
You need to have faith. If you don't have faith, I mean, I can imagine my life if I don't have faith, there's so many obstacles that we face on a daily basis. Some days may be great, other days are just overwhelming. But if I don't have that faith, and that you can have faith, but I also have like that conviction. Like I know that everything's going to be okay. Like I know that God is going to come through for me. I know that God's plans are good. This is me talking about my personal experience, but I think that everyone needs to have that element of faith, and kind of like, because then you just know everything's going to be okay. And if you can have that faith and that certainty and that conviction, and be so certain that it's going to be okay, or it's going to happen, or all things are going to work out for your good, then you could almost go around every day like with all the issues in your life, with $0 in your bank account, but you have peace. And that's and you could still experience joy, because what happens when we have problems, you don't have peace, you can experience joy. So what is better than having your day-to-day issues and having peace and joy, knowing that everything is going to be okay.
Because it's due to that connection. If you didn't have that connection, you would be isolated. You would feel alone, which what happens with that?
Anxious thoughts.
Depression, fear consumes you. And that's again why, and I love that you brought that up again, because that's the purpose of this podcast, is to bring back the importance of connection, faith, because we're all unique, right? We have our physical selves. We can say also we are part of a bigger universe, God, whatever you might call it, but you are unique and you're a puzzle piece in the bigger picture. And when you have that connection with a higher power, faith, that brings you peace organically.
And it attracts miracles. It attracts, everything flows. Like it's kind of like you have just opened up the floodgates to allow all things to be possible.
Absolutely.
Well, you increased your vibrational frequency.
That too. I mean, you
know,
just,
when you bring in love, peace, calmness, joy, belief in yourself, these are all high vibrational beliefs. And when you embrace that vibrational frequency, then you start attracting higher vibrational frequencies.
Absolutely. I'm
And
such a big
that's
believer.
on a very scientific level, but that's
works
that's when
even-
the miracles come. It's because you've allowed them to come.
You've allowed them to
Because
come.
there's faith. You don't have to know exactly how things are going to work out. You don't have to have a certain plan or anything. It just happens organically. Like, I'm sure you didn't picture or thought that 10 years ago, or even, I don't know, 8 years ago, that you would be,
Divorced.
oh, mira.
I never thought I would be divorced. I never thought I would be, living on my own with my 2 girls, having my own business. I never thought ever that this would be my life. But I never lost that sense of hope, faith, and I always knew everything would be okay. And not every day. I mean, I'm human, I'm human, and there's days that my faith is tested, but it is like guaranteed. Whenever I come back and I tap in and I kind of work on that, on my faith, that I feel the peace. I feel like you have this like joy in the expectancy of what is coming is good.
Yeah. I mean, I completely relate to
And
that.
all the good things come.
Absolutely. I wouldn't have thought that we would be sitting here, that I would have a podcast, and it was just kind of like, you know what? This is what I want to do. And let's see what happens. And I get to meet interesting people in our community and build relationships. I get so much just nice energy exchange, and just connecting. And that's a sense of community. For me, that's so important.
It is. Community is very, very important. Having your people, having your community, having people. I mean, I like to consider myself, I like to be of service to others. But then I also like to surround myself with people that are like-minded, or even people I can grow and learn from. So I find myself, I'm very flexible. I don't like to surround myself with people that are just like-minded only, because I do like to learn and grow, and anything that's going to help me become a better version of myself is what I like to surround myself with. But then I also am very much fulfilled by helping somebody that could feel lost, could feel that they're hopeless, or that I can kind of see myself, and where I can even use my own testimony to help them. So I feel like I find myself to be all over the place.
It's a nice balance, though. It's a nice
is.
balance, because
It
you're
is.
not consumed with only, because I don't like extremes, like only thinking about people that you can learn from, right? Which is great. But when you focus too much on that, that can also affect your self-esteem.
Of course, you feel
Because you're
inadequate.
constantly trying to reach and reach and reach.
Or you're just never in the present. You're just constantly looking at like how I can be better in the future, how I
can
can
I
be
be like
better in
them?
the future. Yeah.
And it's nice to go back and help others from all of the things that you've learned and all of your experiences, kind of bring that wisdom to others. And then also be with the people that are at your level, that you feel comfortable
relate
with,
to, and where you
that you
can-
connect with organically. It's having those different pockets in your life and having that nice balance. I love that. I'm a big believer in balance in all aspects of life. All aspects of life. If there's no balance, Nothing is good when it's extremes. Not even the good things are bad in extreme.
So true. So true. And that sense of balance is something that you have to be very self-aware. And once you reach that level of self-awareness, and it could be, and let's talk like physically, or you know, what you're feeding your body, like what you're seeing on TV, what you're listening to on the radio. It's like physically, like, what am I doing? How am I consuming myself on my phone, looking at, going through, and I'm so guilty. I mean,
We're all guilty.
Yeah.
scrolling through, and it's amazing. They know the algorithm, they know what you're looking into. So I just moved into a home. So of course, Instagram is showing me the most beautiful, expensive furniture that I feel this urge. So like, I want to furnish my house. I want to see it, you know, Pinterest worthy, perfect. So it's like, you feel what happens. Like, you feel like, oh, I can't decorate my house. And, you know, I'm really reaching.
The story comes out.
The story comes out. So that could be my experience, but it could also be an experience for someone who, I don't know, isn't happy with their job or hasn't taken a vacation in a long time because they're going through a difficult financial time. And here comes Capri and people on yachts,
Yes,
and like
everybody and their
all the
summer
scrolling.
vacations, and then you're like,
And it's this feeling of just, it's, I mean, I love Instagram. It's great for my business. I like to connect with people.
We talk about that all the time.
Oh, like I love
Yeah.
it. I love it because there's really cute things that I see that really like fill my soul. But then there's things that I see and I'm like, oh, this could be too much. And this could make me feel like,
I'm not good enough,
not
or
good
what's
enough.
wrong with me.
Right. Like even looking at like, you know, you're scrolling and you're looking at other women that are fit and that are, you know, they're younger, and you see yourself getting older and you're like, oh my God, does this window pass me by? Or you see happy relationships, you know, like it could be so many different things. So for me, I think that's Instagram can be great, but I think that, again, that's something that we're looking at with our eyes that can either hurt or help us. And then, you know, what we're listening to through our ears. There's a lot of things that that happen in the news that I personally don't listen to the news. I'm in my own little bubble. I don't like to say that I'm ignorant. I know the way it affects me, and I choose not to really listen to the bad news. You know, I'll tap in and I'll look and see what's happening. I should be informed. I want to be.
Yeah, the basic things.
I want to know.
Yeah, the basics, I think you will eventually find out.
Right.
You don't have to look at the news. If it's something that's really substantial, your friend is going to tell you, a client from your studio is going to tell you.
You're going to find out.
You're going to find out.
So I think that all of those things that you're experiencing on a daily basis, what you hear, what you see, even what you say. So anything, if you're having a bad day, just by you saying, if someone asks you, how are you? I'm great. The next person, I'm doing great. Like, the more you say that, the more you're going to believe it. I believe your words have power. So that's just like one element.
It's a program.
It's reprogramming the brain. Then it's like, what do you put into your body? And I feel like these three things that I just said also affect like what you're feeding yourself, how much time you're dedicating to self-care.
I think you're defining our business. That is integrated mind. So we have the podcast, but that is our business. That's exactly what we do. So I work with the mind, I work with the emotions with the client, and she does the physical stuff. She talks about the lifestyle. She goes into eating. She goes into everything that you can think of.
Sleep, healthy relationships, you know, movement, nutrition, just optimizing everything in addition to the emotion and the
psychological part.
Psychological component. Yeah.
And it's work, right? Like when you start to think about it, but the more you practice it, the more you see the difference, the more you realize, okay, I'm feeling balanced. Like, because I've decided to put a limit on my Instagram, or because I've decided to not hear the news so much, and because I've decided to be positive, I'm feeling a little bit more calm. I find that I have a little bit more time. So what can you do at that time? You can start to give yourself a little bit more self-care, some love. You can work out. You can take bubble baths. You can take time to read and learn, and maybe learn something new. Then you could also take the time to set a time for sleep. Know that your body needs rest, and know that it's okay to rest, and then also create a routine. But I think the more you start with the little things, and the more you start to really integrate them in your life, you start to feel that balance. And you know that when you feel that balance, when you're out of balance, you go back and you're like, okay, what's not working here? I want to feel like I was feeling.
Yep. And you start becoming more aware of what's going on with you. Yeah. Wow. So much so much insight, wisdom. I mean,
So much more than yoga.
yes, but that's the whole point, right? It's like people have this assumption, oh, yoga is just this, but look at how much beauty it has brought into your life and so much connection.
So much.
And the growth that you've gone through. I'm so happy. I'm so happy we got to meet.
Me too.
I'm so happy.
I am also.
So tell me where Break Free is.
Okay.
Tell me like all about it so people can know.
So Break Free, we're a small studio that is on Ponds, right outside of Merrick Park, and we're on a second floor. So it's kind of like a little studio. It's like a nice vibey studio. The lights are low. It has like we have like a little bit of a green glow. There are mirrors. We have like all the instructors play really fun music. Everyone that works with us, we're all very, it's a beautiful community. What I love is that it's small enough so there isn't time to really chit chat in between classes. So it's kind of in and out.
Okay.
So which is good, which I think can be positive. But we're right outside of Merrick Park, and there's lots of parking. So it isn't an issue in Coral Gables because that usually is an issue. And we're very close to Merrick Park, and you're in and out, which is nice. You're there for your hour and you're done.
Your Instagram? Where can people find you on
Instagram?
Instagram?
Is the Break Free Movement. Movement is spelled MVMT. And then my Instagram is Monica Del Valle. Okay. So you can also find me there. And there you'll find Break Free and vice versa.
And people can book individual classes?
So you can book individual classes. We have an app.
Oh, you have an app.
We have an app. So if you go to the page, you'll be directed to the app, and also to our webpage where we have a lot of fun. I also like to connect with people in the community. So anyone that's doing like let's say like HIIT training, or we like to offer special classes within the studio. So anyone that might be an instructor that maybe does online classes, I like to bring them in so that they have an opportunity to connect with the
good.
I love it. I would do a collaboration
so creative.
every other day if you allowed me to.
Oh my gosh.
And then we offer teacher training. So we offer our instructors, if they have created a training, we offer them the opportunity to have it at our studio also.
And are you on ClassPass?
We are on ClassPass.
Okay, nice.
Nicole's going to be like,
It's great.
thank you so
Thank you
much,
so much.
Monica.
So welcome.
Thank
It was
you.
a pleasure to be here.
No, it was a pleasure to have you. And just to hear about your story, it's just gives me and you like just a deeper connection.
Yes.
For
There's
all
always
of
like
us.
so much power in a testimony.
Yes. Yes.